Hello, friends. Welcome to the Expansive CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, and I'm here with my co host, Lauren Ammon.
Hi, friends.
We are in the Discovery Alignment Expansion Framework process. We are talking about today, we are going to dive into expansion. So, if you haven't heard the others, last week, if you go just one episode back, we talked all about alignment. Go back 2 episodes, we talked all about discovery. And so especially through these 3 episodes here, we're really diving into this core philosophy, core structure of Expansive CEO and of the Regenerative Wealth Program. Because truly, this is the process of discovery, alignment, and expansion that allows you to build a business and a life as you, not as anyone else, right? All of the business strategies, all of the, you should, quote unquote, should do this and that and the other thing because, this will get you clients or this will land you contracts or, this worked for me, so it'll work for you. No, we're not doing that anymore. We are in the time in this timeline, in this in society, in the collective, that we are here to understand ourselves and to really discover who you are, what your goals are, what matters to you, where you truly are right now, and from a human design and gene keys perspective, what your energy is here to actually do, how it's here to move through you and align your growth to you specifically. So that is what we've talked about, discovery and alignment. And then what happens? What happens when you do those things? What happens when you discover all about your energy? What happens when you discover where you want to go and where you are right now? We talked about the map, right? Going back, I think we said Denver and Portland, right? We're going from Denver to Portland, Maine. Where's your map? How are you going to get there? What are the ways that your time and your money can support your highest energy? And then when you do those things, you align to your highest goals, you utilize your energy in the most impactful way. What happens is you are going to expand. You are going to experience the expansion. And that's where we are today. So we're going to dive into what it means to expand and what happens what happens when you do expand, and then why you might be holding back from actually allowing yourself to align fully and experience the expansion that is actually fully here for you. So that's what we're diving into today. How are you doing, Lauren? What's coming up for you?
Well, first of all, I'm doing well. So thank you so much. What's coming up is this idea of that not only do we work through this framework of discovery, alignment, expansion, and how we go about doing it, but it's all about supporting you and becoming this autonomous entity, right? Of minimizing, maybe that's what I'm looking for, like constantly running to find answers in other people or other things like to support your business. I mean, this program really is all about how you align, how you discover what's going on, align your business to you and expand in the way that only you can and in the way that means the most to you and whatever that looks like. But that's kind of the underlying current as well. I mean, to your point about kind of what's happening in the background of society, and we are moving from more of a tribal kind of community-based frequency to more of a self-sufficient, autonomous individual space, and we can kind of see what's going on in the background, and some of our institutions are kind of crumbling around us or beneath us or around, whatever. And really supporting everyone to build this business and build abundance and build wealth in a way that actually means something to you. It doesn't mean that you always have to have the most money in your pocket. It's how do you build ease and that's not to say that you're never going to experience another struggle. I mean, that's something that we'll talk about as part of expansion, but really supporting you and building your business autonomously. And that doesn't mean that you're not connected to other people. You don't find answers in other people, but feeling this pressure to s- do something as it's aligned. Well, it worked for me, so it's gonna work for you. Well, that's not always the case. And supporting people and recognizing it's okay to experiment in your own self and see what works and what doesn't.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. That's truly the energy that we're building here is that, and you've talked about this and pointed out even just again today that, my 6-2 energy that I'm a 6-2 profile, I'm a 6-2 manifesting generator with sacral authority. That role model energy, also I have a lot of other energy that's unique direction of the self related. I'm here to experience all of these things in my own way or ways. Sometimes I have to experience things multiple times in different ways. It's special. It's special. but but that gives me that insight to, hey, this is how I've gone through and overcome something in my situation with my background, with my, my own lens and my own design and how I moved through it. And just being able to do that is part of my process of helping others. It does not mean that you go through it the same way I did. It doesn't mean that, let's say we're scrambling up a mountain together and I see a path that works for I've got kind of, I'm 5'2", kind of short. I've got to go a certain way and scramble on certain footholds and handholds to get up a rock, right? Once I get there, and I'm up top and you're, waiting like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Well, this way worked for me, but Lauren, you're 5 inches taller than me. Maybe you can reach I can see from here, you can reach this other one. You can reach these rocks and take half the time." That's part of it, is that it does not mean that the way that I have done things is the way that you're supposed to do things. It means I've gone through it. I've experienced it. I've lived through it. I'm still here. Hi, still alive. Uh, you can do it too. And let's figure out the way that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a 1-3, as a investigator martyr, no one's here to follow my path either, right? My path will be very unique and as a right angle, right? I'm here to figure out my own stuff. But what I can share along the way is all my 3-line mishaps of like, oh well, maybe. I mean, here's what happened. Didn't really work out so much for me, but here are the lessons. Use this through your own strategy and authority and how you make decisions and how you approach life based on your own design. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Then we try something else. But that's the beauty of it, is when you recognize that your own path is your own path and that everybody else's path is their own path. You just get to exchange. You share the lessons learned, and then through your own energy to make the determination. Oh, that might be something I'm willing to try. Or no, absolutely not. That's not. I'm not going to try that, right? And then being able to relieve yourself of the pressure of, oh, well, Hannah and Lauren or whomever you might, find inspiration from tried this, so I have to go do it. Offering the opportunity to say this is an option.
Hmm.
Yeah, or nay. You get to decide.
Right. And we're also going to help remind you to tap into your authority
Yes.
as well, to
Yeah.
know if that's the right option for you or not.
Right. For anybody who's emotional in the program, you know, take take input provided and let it simmer, because that'll be very different from you and me. We That's not how we make decisions, but to honor that process and recognizing that there will be no pressure to do something by set deadline and make a decision. It's kind of like, no, you've got to listen to your own authority,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Okay. So we are going to talk specifically about expansion and what that truly means. So again, we teed it up a little bit. Uh, when you discover where you wanna go, discover where you are right now, discover your human design, discover your gene key sequence, and then you align your time and your money to support your highest energy, where things feel the most, in flow for you on a regular basis, understanding that we as humans aren't going to be in that flow state, you know, even 8 hours a day, right?
Right.
That's not the goal. You're not gonna be there all the time. You're certainly not gonna be there, like, all of your working time. But how can we extend? How can we find that thing that gets you into flow and keep you there as much as possible, even if it's a few hours a day? If you can extend it from 10 or 15 minutes a day, that's another tip even just to notice. And this again, this like the questions that we ask and what we have you work through helps you feel this. Where are you in flow? Where do things actually work? And we mean, when I talk about flow, I mean like flow state. You're going. Your energy is driving, and you're like, I could sit here. A conversation with a friend the other day, and I was kind of talking about that use of energy that just feels like you're not even your brain is happy, your body is working, and she likes to make jewelry, and that was she was like, "Yeah, sometimes if I get an inspiration for a piece, I could sit at a bench and file a piece of metal for 9 hours and not even notice." Like, "Yeah, right?" Like, maybe you're not gonna do that every day. Um, but how can you get into that state more
Yes.
often, right? So, time, money, supporting that flow state energy as much as possible. And again, that little tip of how much are you in flow state at all during your days? Is it more like over your week? Can you notice different times and areas? And then again, let's extend that. But once you do, once you start actually being in your greatest energy more of the week, you will experience expansion. And by expansion in your business, we literally mean more clients coming in the door, more more aligned contracts coming in the door, more people attracted to you to collaborate, more opportunities being attracted to you to, speak on stage or to create workshops or whatever it is. Like, opportunities magnetize to that energy.
Hmm.
And it's that point where preparation, luck being preparation meets opportunity. Right? You create your own luck in that way by having prepared and opening yourself up to that opportunity. And so expansion, all of these different opportunities coming into the door, that is what we call expansion mode. And one of the things that you might experience with that is that as you're expanding, you might be holding back from truly allowing yourself, truly giving yourself all the support that you need, because anytime you've experienced this before, more people coming in, bigger contracts coming in, you've noticed that shit breaks in your business. And what does that mean? Right? Like, that fear, what are some of some of the words that are coming up are, you know, you're afraid that if you get bigger clients, if you raise your prices, you charge more, you get bigger clients in, there's a fear that you have to now do more work, that you're going to have to level up. You're going to have to provide a different level of service, right? That's a super common one that comes up.
Hmm.
Like, I know I'm ready, but also I'm scared.
Yes.
You're afraid your process is going to break. Did you have something you want to add?
Well, it's what the word that keeps coming up is like muted expansion.
Mhm.
It's this. I'll expand just enough so that I can welcome in the abundance coming in, but I'm bracing for. impact.
Mhm.
I love
Bracing, it's such a good term. Yes. You're bracing for the shit that's about to break.
yes,
And so you don't notice that you've got your foot on the gas, but you've also got the other foot on the brake at the same time.
yes. It's like hovering over it.
Or even like keeping it a little bit, right? So it's like the car's going, but it's like the brakes are on a little bit. How do we let the brake go? Right? So that's part of it is what happens if you let the brake go? And because again, you've experienced before, if you've gotten more clients in at one time than you can handle by yourself, and it's been too much at once, or it takes too much time away from your family and you don't have the support that you need to keep all the balls in the air. um your health, right? You like I this happens to me every once in a while. I get like break out in like hives. It's
Mm,
for fun, right?
yeah.
You might have something a health issue that flares up when you're under more stress than usual. All of these things are, that shit breaking. And what that means is that if we think of our business as a house, it means let's say you're building um up. You need to build up, and you've got pillars underneath your house. We've got like 6 pillars underneath the house. Those pillars have to be fully in integrity. They need to be whole. They need to not have any cracks, not be twisted, not be, cockeyed. All of those things need to be true of your business, in the foundations of it for you to be able to expand. But we don't always know. We don't know exactly what's not correct yet until you put more of a load on top of those beams and start to see something that's flexing, right, or not right, or whatever that looks like. Something a crack develops. You're like, "Ah, shit." And so we can even think of it as, let's say you start with 3. Let's say you start with a three-legged stool. You have 3 pillars underneath your business of your stability. You've got, a support person, you've got support systems, you've got your tech stack, and then you've got, your calendar is running really well. Okay, well, when we expand, that's when we start to add those other pillars. But we have to know what those are gonna be, and we have to, um no, I take that back. It's not that we have to know what they're gonna be. We just have to be able to learn how to add more support in the right places to support that expansion. And when I'm looking at that from a business standpoint, a lot of times it is that adding more people. A lot of times that's the thing that needs to happen in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
So when you add a person, it's like adding another pillar of support underneath your team. So your support system is growing, your support beams are expanding underneath the business itself, right?
Yeah.
But it can be scary. And I've had a lot of experiences with business owners who have tried to add someone into that support beam, working with a client who owns a law firm and trying to find the right paralegal, having a really hard time. Right? That's something that I've lived through with clients before. And so again, the brakes, the gas of, okay, things are going. We have more work than I can do by myself or than, us 2 partners can do by ourselves. But the last time I tried to hire a paralegal, it was a complete and utter disaster. So that's the foot on the brake of like, I'm worried about doing that again.
Mhm.
Even though that's the thing, being able to find the right person and being able to like bring in that support is one of the pillars that you really need to be able to expand. So that's one of those examples of like when, like you said, the muted expansion or the fear of expanding of I'm worried that that's going to happen again. And it's going to suck again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously expansion in regardless of context happens, but almost if, whether you're noticing it or not, right? I mean, take it outside of the context of business. Like as you go through something that is a really heavy ordeal in your personal life, you tend to expand once you've gotten through it, once you've gotten past it, once you've fully processed it. It's kind of like, oh, well, now I have a different perspective in life, and I can now use all of the things that I've been through to support me as I'm moving forward. And it's kind of like the version that you were when you started is not the same as you are when you've moved through all of these things and now you're into expansion. And I think sometimes that's what the bracing is that we subconsciously believe we're the same person, but we're not.
Mm,
We're completely not a completely different version. We're just a more evolved version of that. And the expansion is more about recognizing, hey, I I can do this. There's a way that I can move through this based on everything I've seen before. And that's part of what we work on in the program is what we talked about in the alignment is like, hey, if we know that support in the form of another person is what's going to support you in aligning your time and money to your highest energy, then as part of expansion, as part of your moving through all of what you've gone through, how do you add that now into the equation of expansion to say, I can do something differently so I'm not going to repeat the same pattern, right? Because I think a lot of times that's what we do is that we don't, and I'm guilty of this for sure, is that once we go through a situation or an experience, we don't just take a hot minute and reflect. And that's what we're here to do is just, and you don't have to, kind of what we are talking about moving before we hopped on. It's like, you don't have to ruminate on it. It's more of like sitting and being like, what about that went well? If you can always tie it back to your type, right? What about that was I really satisfied with as a generator? What about that was I really frustrated with? And then what's the biggest takeaway I took from this experience? And now as you're moving through expansion, you apply that to the expansion portion of it, portion of your own process and be like, oh, I can take my foot off the brake. I can give more room between my foot and the brake. So I'm not constantly feel like I have to slam on the brake if something doesn't go my way or something doesn't go the way that maybe I wanted to, or I'm starting to feel that fear rise up again. Like, oh no, I'm getting the same pattern. And recognizing that, hey, sometimes we do fall into patterns. Sometimes the biggest thing we can do for ourselves is just recognize we're in the pattern and be like, okay, taking a hot minute.
yes.
Seeing what's going on. Why is the pattern creeping up?
Yes. Yes. That is such a good reminder. And it gets to what I call the redo. So part of expansion in the workbook and in the program, we have you dive into some places where one of the best things we can do for ourselves is to reflect on what we've done so far. And I mean, there are a lot of reasons for this. One of them being a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for how far we've come.
Yeah.
And we're just always like, what's the next thing? It's not good enough yet. It's not good enough yet. That's what I see with a lot of my clients. Like it's pervasive for sure. And so part of that is like reflecting on all the work you've done, how amazing you are already. And again, seeing from Dan Sullivan's work, the gap and the gain, seeing the gain instead of always seeing the gap. Seeing again, I started way back here. I am all the way over here. I have grown so much. I've experienced so much. There's not as much of a gap as I really thought there was to achieving the next thing, right? So that's part of it for sure. And then this part of the redo. So how can we look back? Let's look at that. What was the last time that you did hire someone and it didn't go well? Or the last time you invested in a program and it didn't give you what you thought it would, right? Let's actually mine that experience. One, for the like you said, let's understand what was successful about it? What are you still bitter about as
Yeah.
a projector? What was
Yeah.
satisfying? What were you frustrated about as a generator? Um, Manifestors, what's still makes you angry when you think about it,
Hmm.
right? Or what brought you peace? All of those things. Um, and then I ask you to do a redo. And when I quote unquote a redo is not to like literally go back, like not like actually, send an email or a phone call to someone where that's not really the purpose. I mean, it might be warranted at some points, but this is really for you to be able to bring your own power back and bring your own agency back and come back into, okay, this is what happened last time. This was a space that didn't, when I went for that, next growth edge, it didn't feel completely right. And now let's come back into that and redo. How do you see it now from your exact point, Lauren, that you're not the same person this moment today as you were when that thing happened, even if it was 10 minutes ago? Usually this is like weeks or months or years ago, though,
Yeah.
right? So we're looking back. You have grown, you have changed as a person. What would you tell, let's say I'm 41, let's say this is something that happened when I was 38. What would 41-year-old me turn around and tell 38-year-old me about what I did well, about what I noticed? What were the orange flags? Maybe they weren't red flags, but maybe they were orange flags or yellow. You're like, hey, that's a little weird, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. Right. For me as a sacral authority, where did I feel my gut being like, I know that. I can almost always go back and pinpoint it.
Yes.
Like, I felt that.
Yes.
It wasn't a
Yes.
full yes, and I said yes anyway.
Yep.
What can 41-year-old me go back and tell 38-year-old me? Can she give her a giant hug and be like, you know what, girl, you did exactly what you thought was right at the time. It didn't work out for these reasons, or it did work out in these ways and you weren't even able to see it yet.
Yes.
And here's how the wiser version of me would do this now. And that literally will integrate. We've used this metaphor before, but it's again, all of those experiences are the soil that your life is built upon and
Yes.
in. And so we're turning the soil. We're bringing it back up. We're like, let's put those nutrients back in by literally like infusing our wisdom back in. This is how I would grow this better this time. And so when we come back around, do that next round of hiring, like, all right, they're definitely going to be, using the paralegal example again, they're going to have to do a skills test, non-negotiable. If they can't get through a skills test, then we're not even moving forward. It's a great piece of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like put those boundaries in place. Usually it's about boundaries that you've been allowing to be crossed for some reason. Maybe it's the money. All right, well, you know, I recognize now that, in order to get someone that's going to help me move to the next level, I do need to be able to pay that next level of salary to get the right person in the job. Okay, that's another piece of wisdom that you can handle, right? And it's those types of shifts that allow you to, then when we're talking about that expansion process, to keep expanding with integrity. And I'm going to go back to that definition of integrity of like your pillars underneath your business are whole. They're not cracked. They're not warped. They're not twisted. They're not in a sinkhole. Right.
Yeah.
Expanding with integrity.
Yes. And one of the things that I see pop up a lot among the clients we work with is that idea of shame. Like when we do the redo, like sometimes shame can come up because it can be like, well, I should have known. And that's why we like, no, 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 to take a hot second. Using your example, 41-year-old Hannah knows now. 38-year-old Hannah didn't, or was just starting to scratch at the surface of what that thing meant. And in relieving the shame of hindsight is always 2020. We've talked about it before on this podcast, is that you can't know what you're going through until you've been through the entire thing. You can be present in what you're experiencing in the moment, but you can't be fully aware of what that moment is teaching you or what that experience really means in the broader context of your life until you're done with it. And that's actually written in the energetic human experience, is that this is a very geeked out nuance of human design, but when we're looking at the abstract circuitry, it is all about the experience from the beginning, middle to the end. And you can't know what you're learning along the way until you've reached the end and you have the opportunity to sit in your own energy and look back and be like, yeah. And the other thing too is, as we work with clients through the redo of giving yourself grace, that the very next time that you recognize and we're going through this expansion may not always be perfect either.
Right. You're
You
learning
you
something new.
right. You might need a couple of at bats to hit the home run, right? Um, Look at me using baseball. Baseball is not my sport, but I will use the analogy. Um, Yeah, but you might need a couple of at bats to recognize it and and as you're continuing, once, let's say, clients who are done with the program and they're continuing on their expansion of using the redo practice to say, what is it that I've learned from this? To your point, as again being a sacral generator myself, I can usually look back and be like, oh, yeah. I knew what was going on there. And for me specifically, because mine is connected directly to my very defined splenic center, which is all about intuitive awareness. Like, there are so many times that I can look back and be like, "Oh, I knew it at the moment," and for me, sometimes it's really hard. Like, I get this. I don't know how to describe it other than this, like, weird, just like little download in my body. It's like something's here. And my body always knows it, but sometimes it takes my mind days, weeks, sometimes months to look back and be like, "Son of a bitch, I knew something was going on right there." And, but sometimes for me, the lesson, truly the lesson that I always come back with, if I'm doing my own redo, is pay attention to the bodily response.
Mhm.
And again, that is going to be different for every client we work with. But there will be moments that as you learn more about yourself and in your highest energy and how you were designed to work at your highest form, you will start to recognize, like, let's say if you're emotionally defined, you'll learn more about your wave. You'll learn more of, oh, I see what happened when I made a decision at the very high. I see what happens when I make a decision at the very low end of my wave. And you'll start to see a pattern in terms of the what's the word I'm looking for? The depth of the decision and the length of time required
Mhm.
to find clarity, and recognizing to just honor the patience within yourself of, recognizing that you are emotionally defined. Your process is to work through your wave, to have patience with yourself, and to be able to communicate the patience with other people of, I don't feel clear in this decision. I'm not ready to make it. And just recognizing your process, and the more redos you do to take more of the lesson than bring about shame or guilt or the gosh darn it, I wish I would have. Yeah, we all wish we would have, right? Of recognizing, you go through that, of starting to see your own patterns, so that as you continue to expand more and more, you can look back and be like, okay, I've been here before. I can, and when I say I've been here before in terms of, hey, I've been in this sticky situation. I'm looking back at a situation and being like, yeah, I wish I would have done differently. what were the clues along the way that maybe I somewhat noticed but ignored or second guessed? And then, really looking at your own patterns so that as you continue to expand, you can come back to those things and be like, okay, I've been here before. I've gotten through it. I can figure this out again.
Yes. Yes. The example that was like coming up for me is this one had never come up before. So that was interesting when you're talking about the emotional wave. Um, I see both sides and I hadn't really, I've given lots of examples of people making a decision on the high side of the wave. That happens a lot, especially buying things, buying a program, buying into, an investment opportunity. So, or it could be hiring, but hiring is coming up a lot this episode for whatever reason. Hiring someone, right? When you're like, oh, they're awesome. I love it. They're the person. It's great. I'm going to say yes. And then get down to the low side of the wave. Like, oh, okay, that was maybe moved too fast. The other side, making a decision on the low side of the wave. Think about being extremely frustrated, extremely angry, extremely bitter, extremely, what's the one for reflectors?
Disappointed.
Disappointed, extremely disappointed. And let's say again, like you have an employee that makes a mistake and it's a good size one, right? Like that, making that decision, like you fire them in anger. Like, that's it. We're done. You're out, gone. That's the low side of the wave. When you're in that response, that emotional response, that's making a decision at the bottom of the wave versus cooling it off, right? Letting, like, not ignoring the anger or the frustration or the bitterness or the disappointment, not ignoring it. It's there for a reason. Something happened that needs to be addressed, but it doesn't get addressed when you're at the bottom of the wave. You address yourself. You take care of yourself at the bottom. When you come back to neutral and you can look again, see more clearly the full situation, that's when decisions happen.
Yes. And recognizing too, of looking back through that, as would that situation have been as detrimental for you if you were at another point of your wave, right? Would whatever what the employee did, would it be as heightened if you were at a different point in your wave? And being able to take a step back and say, okay, I'm clear. And maybe it is. Maybe it doesn't matter where you would have been on your wave. Maybe it would have been like, oh, holy hell. Okay. Something we need to address. But yes, it's in recognizing that even emotionally defined people can make very emotional decisions, and that's not necessarily always correct. And that, yes, it takes a matter of time to figure all of this out. And again, even for non-emotional people, again, listener, take a pause. If you're emotional, looking at your chart, it'll be your solar plexus. It'll be the sideways triangle at the right hand side of your chart. If it's filled in, you're emotionally defined. If it's not, if it's white, then you're emotionally undefined. And so just recognizing the influence that has on your overall decision-making process, because those of us who are emotionally undefined, we can make very emotional decisions too. And that's a recipe for absolute disaster.
Real bad.
Speaking for a friend, of course. Um, yeah. But and recognizing too that, and what came up too is there's something that in the literal thousands of pages of human design that I read, is that when emotionally defined people let people go from their lives, whatever that is, personally, professionally, whatever the case may be, that decision can stay with them for a really long time, and actually let go of the correct people. When you're looking at the whole thing, like, could let go of the correct people simply because they were at an extreme of their wave. And that can stay with him for a really long time, and then they have to root through the clarity of that situation. But the same can also happen with emotionally undefined people, right? When we're amplifying the emotions of others, or even sometimes getting lost in our own and then taking in others, we can make, remove people from our lives or bring the wrong people into our lives because of those sorts of things. And so recognizing too that the decision to bring people in, it benefits you from being very clear in making that decision.
Right. Yes. Understanding, again, understanding what that emotional wave feels like for you if you are emotionally defined. And for us undefined, it's about half and half. It's a little bit more leaning towards there are a few more in the population that are emotionally defined. Um, but if we're undefined, noticing what's yours and what's not, right? Like always like this in this language of emotions, understanding if you're feeling something from within yourself or if you're amplifying something in the room, all of those things can be true. And so the best option for any of us is to be able to take a pause, notice the pattern, interrupt the pattern. And I love that you brought up patterns because that is a lot of this work as well is again, like you're saying, like things happen. The way I like to describe it is it's like our life is like a spiral staircase upward, right? And so we might come back around to what feels like the same problem or situation that we've come around to before, but you came around to that at floor 3, and now you're up at floor 5. You see it from a different angle and you see a different piece of the problem, and again you saw what you did on floor 3, and now you have another chance, but we also have to interrupt that pattern. We can't just keep doing the same thing. We can't say, "Oh, yeah, I did this before, and I'm just gonna roll right through and make the exact same" that's what we tend to do, right? It's just make the same mistakes over and over again until we interrupt it, until we bring that awareness. And so that's the biggest piece of expansion is to open that you've done the work in discovery and alignment to open up your awareness. I think that's the key, and I don't know that I've articulated it that way before, so that's helpful. The process itself is the discovery, the alignment. Now in the expansion, you have more tools at the ready to interrupt those patterns, to do the redo, to, energetically do a redo and then actually do a redo if needed, right when the pattern comes up again. And that is what leads to being able to hold what we call hold the expansion, maintain the expansion rather than expand your house over your boundaries, over your foundation, and you're like, "Oh, it's good, it's fine." Wait, these edges aren't actually supported and they just fall off at the
Yeah.
first storm, right? Nope. No, no, no. We're going to build out the foundation along with expanding at the top so that it's fully supported and you can hold that expansion.
Yes.
And so when we do that, I wanted to give a couple examples um, of looking forward of the questions that we have you consider when you're going forward is, hey, now that we've done this work, moving forward into your next week, what is one shift that you can make to your calendar to bring your time into alignment with your highest priority? Again, is there one shift you can make to your calendar to bring your time into alignment with your highest priority? And then the second question is, what is one shift you can make to your spending to bring your money into alignment with your highest priority as well? And then just recognizing how will making those shifts actually support your energy in the week.
Yes.
And that's again that like continuous process. It's not a one and done thing. It's always going to be It's always going to be more, right? The discovery, alignment, expansion, like it's always growing.
Yes.
It's just always happening kind of at the same time. Once you get used to it, it's a continuous process.
Yeah. It's almost like a spiraling staircase that gets wider as you
Mhm.
go up. So you start at the bottom of discovery and you're going around, you get to alignment and then expand and then it gets wider. And so you continue to go through it, but now you've dealt with more, you've experienced more, and now you have all of these things in your tool belt. And the reason I love those questions is one, it forces all of us to take a pause. Because the other side of expansion when it comes to fear is I don't want to repeat the thing, right? I don't want to go through that same process. But sometimes I think the fear, back to what you were saying before, is like now that it's here, there's more pressure to do more, deliver more, whatever the case may be. And we get fearful that if we're almost as if that we're successful on this expansion, holy shit, what's the next one going to be? Like, oh God, I'm having a hard time doing this. What if it keeps going? And the questions in the workbook that we have participants consider is like, focus right now. Focus on this week. Just keep continuing to realign of what you're going through, and then recognizing that, hey, who you were on the Monday, what's today? Who you are on the Monday is not the same person you're going to be on the Friday. So then, how do you make a different? Well, maybe you don't need to make a different decision for the coming week. Maybe you do, and you keep yourself in this um, container, so to speak, and you're keeping yourself in the moment versus like, oh God, what if this continues to happen in 6 months from now? I don't know how the heck I'm going to keep up when I'm not doing anything. But I can't. Nope, not doing anything. Don't do it. And these questions keep keep participants just kind of in this time box, in a healthy time box of boundaries, in a healthy. Okay, this week, how am I going to utilize my spending differently? And just move week to week to week so that as you continue to expand, it doesn't feel like this monumental new beginning. It feels like incremental new beginnings. And when we move about incrementally, it feels a lot better, right? It's always kind of like, if you make the decision that you want to run a marathon. You're like, okay, well, tomorrow you're not going to go run out and run 20 miles. That's not how that works, right? You're going to
Please don't.
no, please, God, please don't. Um, you're going to take it bit by bit by bit because you have to acclimate your body to this new challenge. I mean, you're tearing your body down when you train for something like this. So you don't start by running 20 miles. No, you recognize that, hey, I have X amount of time to go from no miles or minimal miles to 26 miles. I can't just ramp up, but I can take it week by week and I can keep adding incrementally, or I can shift incrementally until I get all the way up to running 22 miles 3 weeks before the marathon, and I'll be ready for the marathon. And that's kind of what the same principle is.
Yeah. Yes, that's such a good example. And even I'll share my experience of like coming back to something,
Yes.
right? Because I've never run a full marathon. I've run a half marathon, which is a lot of miles.
Yes, it's very impressive. Don't
13,
don't don't
14,
don't ever just say I've only run a half. No, you've run a half. I've run a half.
right? It's a
Yeah,
lot of miles.
it is.
And after that, I didn't ever want to run again. It's like that was
Fair.
a lot of miles.
Totally fair.
But coming back to it over and over again, to be fair, let's see, how old was I? I think I was 25 when I ran half. It was the Flying Pig half marathon
Yeah.
in Cincinnati. It was great. And in that moment, I was exhausted, but give me a little time. And I think the next year I did the 10K. I came back to it. That was like, I don't ever want to do that again. That was horrible. It was the worst. I felt awful. And if I had made the decision in the low there, right, like throwing away all of my running clothes. No, no, no. Because the next year I came back to it and I was like, you know what? Running a 10K is actually really fun. and running around a whole bunch of other people is like super energizing, right? It's like everyone's going and people cheering and it's actually really fun. And so I did the 10K. And I did have a few more 10Ks after that. Um, but then again, over the years, I had kids. I would be completely not able to run for a while. I come, like, and just coming back to that practice again, understanding that my body and my mind actually really enjoy that simplicity of running. And it come every time though, if I've been away for a few years, all the little supporting muscles throughout my whole body, right? Like you forget how much you use. Even just for if you're not a runner, or if you are a runner, you'll recognize when you're running, your abdomen is twisting. Every step you're literally twisting your body and you forget like so like the sides of your body, like, I'm so sore. What's happening? Oh, right. Because I'm using my body, I'm using my muscles, I'm using those small supporting muscles all over my body in different ways than I have been recently. And it takes time for those to come back. And yet I also it's like, "Oh, I've done this before. I know I can do it again. I've been through this process. I know it sucks when I push for a next level of anything, but my muscles will adapt.
Mhm.
And I'll figure it out, and I'll do it gently. And I don't have to beat myself up. I can do it in a way that's gentle, that feels good, that honors the pace that I'm at right now. Again, at 41 instead of 25.
Yeah. Big difference
That's
there.
a big that's a difference, for sure. But yeah, I love that example of the widening spiral staircase and then just being able to look back and always honor where you are now, the journey you've been on, and know that things are gonna look and feel different every time you experience an expansion of any sort. And what's the reason for it too, right? It's not that's another aspect that's really important is that as you expand, if you want to raise your prices or um want to add a program or want to add a line of business, like let's talk about the purpose of that. What does that fulfill? What does that bring into your life? Is it from a place of forcing and proving and pushing, or is it from a place of sharing and serving and impact? Like those are very different energies. And you might notice where you've tried to build something before from that proving energy, where now it's like, oh, well, I don't have to prove anything. So I can build this from a different angle and in a way that is more.
Yes. One of the aha moments that I've had personally is, in the work that we do. And so listener, just recognize that Hannah and I are always on our own evolving journeys. And even though we've studied a lot of our respective expertise? Yeah, whatever. That we're always learning as we work through it. And one of the biggest ahas that I had, particularly when we work through this kind of work with clients, is that when you look at it from your energy, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of business owners will look at human design and gene keys and say, well, tell me in my chart where it helps me understand where I make the most money or I have the most successful business. And that's not what Hannah and I do. To be fair, that's not what gene keys or human design is here to do. It's really here to support you in understanding how your energy works so that you can then experiment in your own way of what that really means for you. And this idea that a lot of times it's not necessarily about, actually, let me take a step back. So, I'll talk about it from a generator standpoint, and listeners, so sorry, we're always very generator heavy, but that's our experience. Is the typical MO of a generator is like, I'll start something because I feel like I have to put my energy here because that's how I get to these specific results that I've tied myself to. And we get ourselves into it, we're in it, and we're like, God, this sucks. I do not want to do this. The frustration settles in and then we quit and, or, go on to something else. And then we feel guilt, shame, and defeated. I don't know what word I was going for there. Because it's like, well, it works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. But it's recognizing the aha moment I had is it's not always sometimes what we're doing, it's how we're engaging in the activity. And I think that's what the redo helps redefine too, is that maybe you don't have to abandon the what. Maybe you just shift the how. And then the other questions of how do I align my time for this coming week? How do I align my money? Supports you in at least experimenting with different hows. That if you really like the what, find a different how. But find a different how through your energy, not the forcing, not the I've got to prove, I've got to do this, but the whole I really feel satisfied doing this. I haven't quite found the way yet. So what if I play around with that? And that's also a part of expansion too, is sort of being playful
Yeah.
and experimental in how you look at these so that you don't fall into the same patterns. And you don't get to the point of like, well, I'm just going to stay on stair 5 or floor 5 cuz I like the vantage point here is better than 5, but I'm really intimidated looking up at floor 7.
Mhm. Right. Oh, yes. Ugh, that's, oh my gosh, what was just coming up? It was really good. That sense of, like, again, doing it in the way that is right for you. We see so many people, or in kind of my lens or my scope of experience recently, especially in the coaching space, but kind of in any space, that's service based is like, how can you there are 2. How can you make it a group program that is scalable, that you don't have to touch, right? How can we define the process so that more people can funnel through without any personal support, which doesn't I mean, that I don't think that works, truly. If it's not at least a hybrid program that brings in, like, someone is, like, helping you, um, yeah, I think there needs to be a shift there. But there's so many people are like, "Oh, you just build a mastermind or build, a program that can go without you," and the other piece being AI, right? How can you build an AI coach to take over as you so that you're not putting any of your own energy into it? And the prevalence of that right now and this so many people feeling like, "Oh, yeah, like I have to do that." Uh, no, you don't have to. And I don't for the most part, I don't think that again is conducive to where energy and the collective is actually going. But that's part of that proving like, well, everyone says I should be creating it this way. But what if your energy is like, no, you're like really meant to be a one-on-one deep person, or you're not really like the group aspect isn't appealing to you at all. Or in my case, kind of a long-term group program doesn't feel good to me, or an open-ended group that doesn't have a purpose or not doesn't have an end point.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good to me. And I've tried that before and I've done that before, and it gets exhausting and heavy. I'm like, ugh, like I'm carrying again, here's my backpack full of, 50-pound rocks when I have to, you know, carry the energy consistently all the time without any possibility or without any end in sight. But if I can create smaller group containers that have a purpose and an end date, that feels really good to me.
Mhm.
It's not the open-ended mastermind that's like maybe the thing that everyone's trying to create now, but it's the thing that actually my energy feels lit up for.
Mhm.
So it wasn't all of these different things that I've tried. I've attempted. I've done things different ways. I've tried, year-long programs and open-ended programs and different things, and it's, oh, yeah, I can see where it worked. Again, my redo. I can see where it worked in some ways, what felt really good about it. I can see what didn't feel good about it, what felt really draining and really heavy. So how can we move forward in a new way
Yeah.
that is in better alignment over and over again and just continue to refine and expand?
Yeah. It's a great example of the what was there. The how just was a little askew,
Mhm.
and you are so phenomenal of being in a group and leading a group, and you love to go deep, and that's what makes the program that we do together so beautiful, is that you have the ability to look at what's next, right? To see the kind of bigger picture, but then it's contained. It's got an endpoint. There's a very targeted purpose and um, value that's brought to the participants. We're in it, we're deep in the moment, and then there's time for all of us to stop, reflect, go through, and then for the participants to continue to align their business to reach expansion and go through the whole process of discovery, alignment, and expansion moving forward. A beautiful example of the what is bringing satisfaction. It's just the execution was like,
Mhm.
ugh, no, I'm not feeling it right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's one thing I have also noticed over the last many years. Like, I don't necessarily do the same thing twice either. It's always going to evolve in some way. What even if it's similar, right? Like there's going to be something different. I'm not the like we're going to do the same exact thing the same exact way over and over again.
Well, you could make the connection that yes, you're a role model hermit in terms of your profile, 6'2", if you're looking at the numbers. But your channel of charisma is a 3-line channel.
Mhm.
Your actions and busyness are going to be different. You can't like energetically, you almost can't do the same thing over and over and over the exact same way. That repetition is just like, ugh, don't like it. I'm the same way. I don't know if that is my three, or you can make the argument my 3 line. So, for instance, right, I swam for 20 years, but every time it was a different practice. It was a different challenge. So, like, the thing was the same, but the thing wasn't the same. How we went about it, and yes, I I'm standing firm that that is a 3-line
Take
phenomenon.
it. And yes, and so that's another even for me to know as I'm offering things like that's a truth that I can share as well. Is like this is what it's going to be like this time. If this sounds interesting, if this is calling to you, like it's probably not going to be like this the next time.
Yes.
It's going to be different.
Okay, again, listener, this is real-time discovery, right? I have felt so much shame about that in my life because I am the same way of like, whatever you get this time around is what you're going to get this time around. In terms of me, right? I could turn around tomorrow and not be a different version of myself, but it's just not going to be the same experience. And I have felt so much shame. And I think that has been like a force, like, no, it's got to be the same every time. And then you look at my energy, like, how could it be the same every time?
Consistency is not there.
No, the consistency in showing up is there. The consistency of how it comes out is not necessarily there. I also have an undefined G. Listener, if you want to look at it, kind of the diamond in the middle of your chart. Uh, I don't have a consistent and reliable sense of self. So I get to move in and out and do different things and be a different version of myself. And again, I think before I understood that, I felt shame of like, well, I can't. what I think today is not necessarily the same as what I thought yesterday, but I can't say that. Then I'll be looked at as inconsistent and authentic. No, no. Lauren's just, she's evolving at every given moment. And she's a spontaneous generator. So what's going to come out today is not necessarily what has come out yesterday or will come out tomorrow. And being okay with that, recognizing that it is part of the contribution that me or anybody who may have a similar design or similar open centers is here to experience, and recognizing, yeah, because of being an in the moment sacral generator, this moment is this moment and next moment may be different. And that can be challenging as a business owner because everyone's like, do scale. It's got to be repeatable. It's got to be the same thing. And it's like, okay, but that makes me itch and I don't want to do it that way. But also recognizing how you build scale as somebody who may share those energetic attributes, scale is going to mean something different.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. And final plug here, talking about split definitions and single definitions. We've talked about splits before. You may not be here to do it on your own. Most
Most of us aren't.
most people are not, right? And so to understand that's part of the expansion as well is like, when is it time to bring in those allies and partners? And where, it could also be, you could be completely comfortable with, a certain level of I can handle this on my own, and that's great. That's fine. We can be aware of that for sure. But that if you're here and you feel like there's more and you have that pull to expand, that you feel like you're here for more, that you're here to make an impact, whatever it is, and you feel that inside, the vast majority of us who have that feeling are not here to walk that path by ourselves. It's just not how we're built. We're here to be in supportive collectives and communities and partnerships and whatever right configuration that is for you. Um, but yeah, just that knowing that like sometimes that's sometimes that is the roadblock to expansion is being able to bring other people with you, or know that place of like, okay, this is it, like to bring someone else in, to partner, to collaborate deeply, whatever that looks like. uh, so, and again, I've been there as well.
Oh, yeah.
We've both been there. Oh goodness, I just hit my desk. We've both been there. uh yeah, and so having that support throughout those processes as well, and making those
Yes.
decisions, and understanding like, hey, if that's truly where the desire is, and that's where, your heart is leading and your gut is leading and all of that, and your experience is leading, okay, let's align.
Yes.
Let's align. So we're going to end it there for today. So again, we've talked about discovery. We've talked deeply about alignment. We've talked deeply about expansion. You can listen to 3 whole hours, basically, if you really wanted to. I think at 3.5 probably. Um, and we are in April 2026. So if you're listening live, we are doing the Regenerative Wealth program live in starting at the end of April 29th. You can find information about that on the website. We have a link in the show notes here, where you can check that out. It starts with discovery, alignment, expansion, and then moves from there. It moves through how do we actually apply this in your business? How do we actually look at your money systems in your business, in your personal life? How do we bring those into alignment with what you actually need to thrive in your life, in your business? All of those pieces are there, along with money story meditations that, as you go through the material, we'll talk more about this next week, but as we go through the material, stuff's going to come up.
Yes.
You're going to feel resistance to
Yes.
different things. You're going to feel, uh, maybe dissociate a little bit here and there, right? Like that happens to you. Like, oh, I didn't even hear that. Oh, what was your brain protecting you from? It was blocking some stuff out for some reason.
Yes.
The money story meditations that go with each module, or with each week, because we're going to be doing it live, will help reveal what are those blocks, what's coming up. So as you go through the material, the money story meditations help open up that subconscious side of why you're blocking and what you're blocking,
Yes.
with your money. And so we've got the practical implementation, looking at the money. We've got the money story meditations that help you understand the emotional side of what's blocking you. We've got the human design reading that everyone will get so that you can really align, who you're being and how you're showing up with your highest energy, and then a one-on-one integration session with me as well, so that we can really make sure that everything that you've learned, you have full, practical, applicable steps to take into your business.
Yeah.
We're super, super excited about that. If you have questions and if you want to know if this is right for you, there's a link to learn more. You can jump on our calendar, to talk about it, and we would love to see you. Anything else? Anything else coming up?
Well, I would just say that we intentionally do the human design reading at the very beginning to help set the foundation. I think we touched on this a little bit too, and as we move through the program and look at the modules, and week by week, we'll continue to infuse the human design reading and some of the gene keys details to make it truly personal to you, and to really kind of integrate all of that and looking at your time, money, and energy as we move through the program. And the money meditations really speak to, I can't remember if it was last episode or the one before that, where we talked about the importance of the relationship with money. That's where we really start to get into it, of what your personal relationship with money is. And as you work through those meditations, starting to realign that and being able to infuse that into what we're doing every week, so that we can blend I'll say it, we can blend the woo with the practical, because they're really, it's an art and science to the whole thing. And recognizing that because humans are involved, we'll look at logic, we'll look at energy, we'll look at woo, we'll look at all the things, because they all serve an important piece of the puzzle.
Yes. Beautifully, beautifully said. So again, if you are interested in hearing more about that, connect with us. And like I literally just said like 5 minutes ago, um, I, it won't be the exact same next time either. So if this is where you're at and this is what you need right now, come join us, come play. I can't promise what it'll look like in the future. So we'll probably do it again, but we'll just see. I don't know.
Yes.
Come
We
play.
like to learn on the fly. That's how we learn. So,
It's true. Making things
yes,
better, but different. Always different.
different. Yes.
So it was wonderful to talk about this. I'm so glad we have, this resource now of, what does it mean to discover, align, and expand, in such detail. And we'd love to hear from you. Any questions you have, send those over to Lauren, so that we can talk about them. And, like I mentioned last week, there's, a little extra on the YouTube channel, and any listener questions we get, if it fits into the normal, course of the podcast, we can answer it here, but we can also answer it on YouTube. So go check out, like, subscribe over there to catch what's going on over on YouTube. And we would love to hear from you and what's resonating, what you'd like to hear more of, all of that. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye, friends.